Down here in Austin, Texas, Dave Noriega, Jason Shepard, and Alex Carey for Cougar Sports Saturday. We were able to squeeze in a little football game amongst all the fun that we had on the RV trip. We obviously know this is a good win for BYU. Is it a historic win just because it's Texas, even though it's a down year for the Longhorns?
You think about road wins for BYU in the history of the program, not just like getting a win on the road against a big program, but the way you did it. I mean, 41-7, you start thinking about how well that they played, and how much they dominated. That third quarter will go down as one of the most historic quarters for BYU fans. 28 points and just it wasn't record-breaking yardage like it was last year. It was just the way that they dominated the entire game. Historic win, absolutely, for the program.
Jason, what was it that stood out to you in this game? Because there were so many things that went well, both offensively and defensively. What kind of stood out to you?
Well, you referenced the Taysom Hill play, and you don't want to oversell it, but years down the road, when we look back on Taysom Hill's career, and we're looking at signature plays, the hurdle touchdown is going to be one of those signature plays that we play all the time. That's how big that was. The other part about this is everybody was talking about this year's schedule and the fact that it wasn't last year and it's not as tough as this year or next year. But when you look at this year's schedule, there were a couple of games where you knew BYU had a couple of chances to make that splash. This was one of those games. And not only did they make a splash here in Austin, they dominated the home team. And that's the kind of thing that people in college football, whether you're paying attention to BYU or not, they hear about. Then they go do a little research. It's something that in the college football community, people will start to take notice when you go on the road and not only win at Texas, but you dominate them.
One of the things that really stood out to me was when we had Joey Harrington on Cougar Sports Saturday earlier on Saturday. He said Taysom Hill is one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country, a dark horse for the Heisman, and we all just kind of took a little step back and said, don't say it, don't mess it up. And then he comes out and he dominates the field. I mean, he's a Jordan Leslie hold away from having 170 yards again, something just eye-popping. Is he a Heisman hopeful? Does this schedule, does this win at Texas kind of propel him? Because Ty Detmer had the Miami win. They got everyone talking about it. Is this a good enough win for Taysom to be considered in the Heisman conversation?
Yeah, I look at it a lot like Coach Mendenhall looks at the rankings throughout the season. I really want to get to like week 7, week 8 before I start making those. But
it's week 2 when we make these decisions.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that eventually when you start to see this stuff pile up, yardage and the touchdowns and the running and the passing, all that stuff coming together with the wins that have to be there, then you look back and go, well, look at that Texas game that he did down in Austin. It's going to be a part of it, but I think you got to wait a little bit longer before we get too crazy on the predictions with the Heisman stuff.
But it's so easy to do after such a dominant performance. Now it's time for BYU to refocus. It's a short week to play Houston on a Thursday night. But again, when you are playing on Thursdays and Fridays, you're the only game in town. People can't help but watch you. You get the news coverage because you're the only game in town. So this can't do anything but play well for BYU. They're kind of in the spotlight. People are talking about them now. Now the question is, can they continue this run? Can they continue to play and hold on to those national headlines that they seem to have captured? We've had a great time here in Austin. We've had a great time on the General RV trip down here, making many, many stops. So for Jason and Alex Carey, I'm Dave Noriega for Sports Beat.